All right, guys. So I kind of want to talk about I kind of want to talk about a few things real quick. I know it sounds pretty crazy how I'm going to interconnect these things. As a matter of fact, I shouldn't interconnect them, but I am. Um, so you know, Charlie Kirk. I really didn't watch this guy. I really didn't pay attention to this guy. But I always thought he was just a always just thought he was your typical, I want to say your typical white boy. Your typical white boy. I hate to generalize people, but I mean, they've kind of done that to themselves, like with their behavioral patterns, with how they're acting, even with their choice. Well, they really didn't have a choice of president, so to say, because the electoral college pretty much selects that. But just like for example, I was on Clubhouse recently, and this one white girl actually said that Americans and being white Americans should have freedom to be stupid and freedom to be misinformed. She actually said that. These were the words of her. Um, so with that being said, like a lot of them are willfully ignorant, to certain things. Well, to mostly everything. Another example of such is that Donald Trump was talking about Azerbaijan, and instead of talking about the conflict of, I think it's Karabakh, which the Azerbaijanis had with the Armenians, he proceeded to say that it was a conflict between Azerbaijan and Albania. So he doesn't even know the difference between the Balkans and the Caucasus region. This is how willfully ignorant these people are. You know, um, in terms of the Charlie Kirk, assassination. Me personally, I think it was something bigger at hand that was a part of it. But the, I hate to say it, but the reason why they hate Islam is because, Islam, for the most part, you know, the unfortunate thing about Islam is that, as compared to Judaism and Christianity, they don't hold their own at such a high expectation. You know, hence the American woman said, "I think it's your right to be ignorant, willfully ignorant." Right? That's what she said. Those were her words. So they don't hold their own at a high account, right? But they'll sell you wolf tickets that, oh, they're the most civilized people in the world, they're the most intelligent people in the world, they're the most sophisticated people in the world, but their actions say otherwise, right? As a matter of fact, one person was like, I wish it wasn't one of our own that carried out the Charlie Kirk assassination. That's what he was saying. That, oh, I wish it was like an immigrant or something like that. That's what those were his actual words. You know what I mean? He actually said that. Um, so when you see that it was one of their own who did it, and I believe there was a bigger hand at play. I believe that the guy who did it, he was a pawn in a bigger scheme. That's my personal belief, that he was a pawn in a bigger scheme. So when you see this, that this guy was your typical, I think they said he was right wing who did it, you know. When you see that he's a right wing and also one of their own who did it, you realize that who the real problem is, you know what I mean, despite the rhetoric of Charlie Kirk. And I want to add the spiritual aspect into this, okay? I want to add the spiritual aspect. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about these people. He said that, let me find the verse real quick. Just give me a second. I'm going to find the verse. Hold on. Okay. Let me find it. It's in Surah Al-Ma'idah. It's in Surah 5, verse 13, I believe. Let me see. Let me find it. Okay. So what the verse says, and I truly believe this verse, I truly believe this verse. So in that verse, it says, hold on. Okay. So it says in the verse, "Wanasu kata mima dukiru bihi wala tazalu tali'u ala kainatin minhum illa kalilan minhum faufu anhum." So it basically translates to, actually, let me read the whole thing. Fabima nakdihim mithaqahum la'anahum wa ja'alna qulubuhum qasiyatan yarifun al kalima an mawadi'ihi wa nasu hatta mima lukiru bihi wala tazalu tatali'u ala ka'inati minhum illa kalilan minhum fa'fu anhum wasfah inna Allahu yahibbu muhsinin. So what that translates to is, so for their breaking of the covenant, we cursed them and made their hearts hard. They distort words from their proper usages and have forgotten a portion of that of which they were reminded. And you will still observe treachery among them, except for a few of them. But pardon them and overlook their misdeeds, and indeed Allah loves doers of good. So what this means is basically, when we look at it, right? When we look at these people, we have to, what this means is that when you look at Jews, and when you look at, let's just face it, Ken and Karen, that's all they do is mistort words and what have you. That's all they do is provide misinformation. That's all they do, okay? Meanwhile, they're the ones who are doing the most treachery when it comes to in this world. So, for example, there was one rally where Charlie Kirk, there was a woman who was actually raped. And the woman was raped by her father. And as a result of the rape, a baby came from it. Right? So the baby came from the grape. And with the baby coming from the grape, I want to say that it led to something very, very bad. It led to something very, very bad. But when she went to the, the open forum with Charlie Kirk there, he kind of nodded his head in approval. He didn't say shame on the father. He didn't say anything like that. He kind of just like condoned it. Right? So when, this guy is denying genocide in of our Palestinian brothers and sisters when he's denying there is a human imposed famine, a manufactured famine, an engineered famine on our brothers and sisters. When he's inciting all these bad things, then the energy is going to come. And because like the majority of like, I hate to say it, the majority of uh, the Nejo people don't believe in God. God shows them that He exists, and so this kind of thing was like a divine punishment. But the problem is that you have, I hate to say it, one African individual that I like the best, and this just goes to show you what kind of times we're living in, is that he said that for some reason the black man and the black woman thinks that if they become a better house nigga, that whites will treat them better. And this is the thing. Now you're seeing black people crashing out. Even you're seeing I want to say a NFL player who's a black NFL player who's offering to pay for Charlie Kirk's kids' tuition in the school and everything. Now he wants to fork the bill. So when you see things like this, it's just like these people are not going to treat you better no matter how much you try. And I hate to say it, but many house niggas exist that are almost adjacent to black. For example, the Arab leaders, those are house niggas because if it would have been me, I would have wiped the problem area off the map a long time ago. I would have dealt with the consequences from America and Europe, and I would have just took my L, But you have, like, for example, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, Turkey, and things like that. They're house niggas when it comes to the problem of the area, but it didn't do him any good. It being a house nigga didn't do him any good, and for some reason, a lot of non-white people fall into this trap, thinking that like trying to become a better house nigga will make them like you more, and in fact, it's not going to make them like you more. They're still going to dislike you. They're still going to view you with contempt. They're still going to like. It's just not in their psyche to basically function regularly. That's what I'm trying to say. It's just not in their psyche. Um, so, with that being said, I'm not going to celebrate Charlie Kirk's death, and I'm not going to grieve for Charlie Kirk's death. All I'm just going to say is he got what was coming to him. He got the energy he wanted. Because things are about energy. Uh, and even in Islam, even in the Islamic perspective, I think there was one story with the Prophet alayhi salatu salam. One person was trying to kill the Prophet alayhi salatu salam, but what happened is I think that person got attacked by, I think it was like a tiger or a lion or something. He got attacked and he ended up getting killed. So yes, he had that energy for the Prophet, and guess what? That energy came towards him. And that's the same thing with even like when the Americans went to Afghanistan and things like that. They had all this vitriol wanting to kill, kids, wanting to do all types of war crime. And then these same Americans complain about PTSD, and some of them have drug problems, and some of them even self-delete because of the things that they did, But now I want to segue to something very significant. Okay. The thing is in combat sports right now, okay? In combat sports, there's, I guess you can say, three dominant groups. You have, okay, four. You have Central Asians. You have those people from the Caucasus Mountains. You have Africans, and then you have Latin Americans, be it Brazil or a place like that. Cuba, you know what I mean? So what happened, you know, today is that Terrance Crawford, you know, he put on a boxing lesson. He put on a boxing lesson. He beat Canelo from pillar to post. He iced that man, okay? He washed him. Made it look pretty easy, actually. Although it wasn't easy, he made it look pretty easy. What this says basically, right? Is that in essence, you know, minorities, it just says basically that no matter how much white people, especially on these Instagram pages, it's like, damn, y'all don't got a life or something. It's like, damn, man, like what the hell? Y'all don't got lives. You just want to trash minorities all day, basically. It's like, damn, you guys don't have lives. What this basically says is, in essence, that minorities, be it a black minority, be it like a brown minority, basically shows that we're cut from a different cloth. Basically shows that we attack things very differently. Basically shows that despite the media, which largely is controlled by the people who show contempt for us, that we're capable of incredible things. We're capable of incredible things in all fields, be it STEM, be it electronics, be it sports. The problem is, though, we will get criticism no matter what corner we decide to specialize in. This is seen with one UFC fighter from one of the autonomous Caucasus regions, Ingushetia. He married young. He married a young woman. Who comes and criticizes him for marrying the young woman? Billy Bob and Ken. Because for them, normality means doing things like with two of the same gender, doing things with changing your gender and things of that nature. And they get criticized for maybe doing something that is normal in their culture, in the Caucasus culture, and leads to a functioning society, you know. So with this being said, I say we just hold the line still. You know, I say that we stay prayed up. If you're into doing dhikr, we stay doing our dhikrs. And, you know, we just keep winning, you know, just keep on striving to win. That's what I say we do. I say we just keep on striving to win. And I just say we keep doing that. Now, another thing that needs to be said, you had a lot of the white people going for Canelo because for them, although he was Hispanic, he was white adjacent enough for them to go against Terrance Crawford. But What I'm just trying to get at is basically the racism that they claim that they're over never left. It just shape shifted into different forms. And with that being said, you know, I'm going to end this video by saying this. I dislike their actions and their behaviors. I don't dislike them for being a certain complexion or coming with from a certain area. I dislike them because their behaviors are pretty much the same across the board. You know, there really isn't any changing in them. That's why when people that's why when these black guys big up Karen and stuff like that and Becky, I'm like, bro, like what the hell? Like, why are you bigging up? Why are you bigging up the person where Keisha got her blueprint from? You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, with that being said, inshallah, let's just keep on winning. Inshallah, let's just keep striving and being the best we can, whether you're black or brown, you know. And yes, I do realize there is racism in anti-black racism in the brown communities, but just connect yourself with the cadre who understand that you and them are in the same scenario, you know. But anyhow, that's all I got for now. Fool is signing out. Inshallah.